Okay, so 1889 part 2. So what is it? Okay, well, it's an elegant, beautiful, clear rye moonshine that's so smooth that it's most easily described as vodka, which is really strange, but okay. How did he make it? The best we know is that it was roughly half and half rye and corn. He was German and relatively recent in the country, and if you know anything about the history, you know how that worked. For instance, Jim Beam's relatives and people that came over, first to Kentucky, Jacob Beam, these were Germans. There's a lot of German guys that had planted a lot of rye, and so, for bread and everything, but there was bumper crops in rye because a lot of the English guys and Irish guys that really, do the same thing that the British guys did, but the Scottish and Irish guys had the distillation. So everybody came together in this early America, and the first American whiskey was rye. When they make George Washington's recipe, it's a rye whiskey that's clear. So people that are really knowledgeable and really know the history know that a rye and corn blend that's white and unaged is one of the very first whiskeys done in America. In my particular family history, we're talking about 1889. It's a little bit later, still 130 years ago, but it's a little bit later than George Washington in 1800. But he was still doing similar things. But he had corn, and we know this from the archaeology, from the fields they had there at the site. He had corn and rye. No barley, and this is the secret. Now, almost every single thing on the market today, the malt of the barley is the secret to the enzyme process. So, really quick version, you need enzymes that break down starches into sugars that the yeast can eat to make alcohol. Almost everyone on the planet does that one of two ways. With malted barley, which is why everything's a malt product, okay? All the beers and whiskeys and everything's a malt product. Single malt scotch in Scotland, etc., right? All bourbon has this. Or they use now that it's the modern age and they have, modern technology, they use the amylase enzyme itself. So they just use the chemicals when they're making mass production liquor. The chemicals, of course, don't have any flavors, so that's problematic flavor-wise, but it's what you're seeing in a lot of mass production products. People that are making their own whiskeys or beers or anything, they're using the enzymes from malted barley. My grandfather's recipe, which we make, the original Mountain Shine that Black Bear makes, was a 90% corn, 10% malted barley recipe. And most of the moonshines are pretty close to that. Now, you can malt corn, but it's difficult. It's not something that people very often do. So my grandfather went to the feed store and got malted barley from guys, and they were related to guys that were making beer. And that's how he did it. He brought home some malted barley, dumped it into his corn, and grew all the corn himself. Off you go. That's how that did. And we do something very similar, using Colorado heirloom corns and barleys. But there's no barley at the archaeological site for my grandfather's grandfather for 1889. So what was he doing? And there's a warm area with a big flat area. And so what he was doing was malting rye. Now, you can malt rye. It's not as easy as barley, but it's easier than corn. So we have a product that's got malted rye, regular rye, just ground raw rye that's been dried out, and some corn, and a little bit of white sugar. They would have had quite a bit of white sugar there that they use for various types of cooking, and that would jumpstart his process. There's not a lot of white sugar in what my family does, but there's always a little bit, and I think they're using that just to jumpstart things. But it's majority rye, and it has malted rye as the secret for the amylase process. So that makes it very unique and very fun, and we're having a blast making it. And I'll make a part 3 in just a minute and explain a little more. Thanks for listening.